Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, I welcome you to the greatest podcast that nobody is talking about. Welcome to the Geeks and the Noobs. I didn't take a deep breath. I'm going to try. Okay. I am still recovering from St. Louis. I am not one to normally trash a place. I'm sorry, that's wrong. I hate Arizona and Florida with a passion. St. Louis is now also on that list, but we won't get into that. Now, welcome everybody. To the Geeks and the Noobs. Welcome back, Lily.
Hi! I am alive.
Yes. It's been
a crazy 2 weeks back in school.
Yeah, it's just been it's like ever since finals for you, it's been a little hectic and crazy, but you know, we're getting back in the groove of things. Before we get started, for one, we both have some merch to show off.
Yes.
I'm wearing the long sleeve. Can y'all hear me? Yeah, y'all can hear me. And she has the Geeks and the Noobs hoodie. So we got that. Go right down below our About section on Twitch. You can find the link there. Also, if you join our Patreon, you have 24/7 access to our merch. More merch will be coming soon. There's other stuff on there as well, so go check that out. Also, I have to brag once again as I move the camera.
Oh, yeah.
To my amazing wall mural.
I only got to see this on TikTok. Now I get to see the full thing.
Yeah.
Very nice.
And my soundproof door, which isn't very soundproof. That's not right.
I feel that. I should get some of that padding for the walls in my... Well, I mean, I need padded walls, period, because fucking psycho. But I should get some soundproofing.
Blobby concurs.
No. How's it going, Blobby?
Everybody say hi to Blobby. Okay. I will be making a Blobby shirt soon.
Yeah.
Okay. Also, one more thing for anybody listening now, if I have any wrestling fans out there, as some of y'all know, I'm also a big wrestling geek. And so last week we had Comic Punk Guy on. We talked to Royal Rumble, had a great episode. It was a lot of fun. So I met him and a couple other guys in St. Louis when I went to the Royal Rumble. So this coming Saturday, 7 p.m. Eastern, we'll be doing a special Wrestle Talk podcast with me, Comic Punk Guy, McGruber, Infamous Opinionist, and Love Panda. So that should be a lot of fun as well. So make sure you check that out. Now,
nice.
All the work and homework and stuff is out of the way. That's not the word I'm looking for, but I'm going to go with it. House cleaning, housekeeping. All the housekeeping's out of the way. Housekeeping, yeah. Oh, also, Raise Energy. Get some. It's great. Raise Energy, use promo code SuperBeard, get 20% off your entire order. So go to Raise Energy. You can go to repsports.com or just Google Raise Energy. You'll find it that way as well. They also have clothes, pre-workout, hyper sleep to help you sleep, all kinds of stuff. It's good stuff. Great flavors, best energy drink on the market. The only one that doesn't make me feel like I'm going to crash. So I love that too. Now the housekeeping's out of the way.
What are we talking about today, Vince?
Oh, I don't know, Lily. Maybe we're going to talk about one of the most anticipated comic book movies of all time, currently about to become the highest grossing domestic movie of all time, that came out damn near 2 months ago, and we're finally going to get to talk about it. And why is that?
Really? It sounds so exciting. I couldn't anticipate this at all.
Why are we just now talking about it?
So sorry for it taking a long time to watch Spider-Man. I finally have, and we're finally going to talk about it.
Yeah. Oh, I'm a poor college kid. Oh, I have responsibilities other than this podcast.
Listen, it's valid.
Yeah. Not all of us have no life. I get it. But I know that we did have an episode. I brought on my friend Superhero Talk, Michael, and he came on and we did talk about Spider-Man No Way Home. But I'm definitely incredibly excited to get Lily's perspective on the entire thing.
As an actor, as a director.
Yeah, that's why. No, well, I mean, that is honestly part of it, but also the fact that you are kind of new to the Marvel universe. You're not incredibly familiar with the comic books and stuff like that, but you are familiar with the movies, and the end all be all of this film was a big nostalgia fest, but done in, I think, the best possible way.
Yeah.
Um, but that is somebody who has been reading comic books for over 30 years, watching these movies ever since they came out. I remember going to the theater when the very first Spider-Man movie came out. I ended up seeing it in the theater over 2 dozen times. Um, and at the
Damn.
time, thought it was the greatest movie ever made. And now I look back at it, and there's definitely flaws with it, and there's problems with it, but it does have one of the greatest songs of all time in the soundtrack song, "Hero" by Nickelback and Saliva. Um, I will not be taking any questions or debate on that. It is the greatest soundtrack song of all time. Um,
I can't really debate you on this because I haven't heard of it.
Not gonna stand there waiting. Before Twitch kicks us off because that was so good. I can't sing. Sorry, guys. Anyways, regardless, we have a lot of nostalgia in this film, but again, it's done in an incredibly smart way, and it didn't just feel like nostalgia for nostalgia's sake. A lot of it made sense. There are certain things in the film that didn't make sense. But let's start with like your overall feeling of the film.
First, I want to say that different from most theater goers for this movie, or movie goers for this movie in particular, Tobey Maguire is not the Spider-Man that is closest to my heart. It's Andrew Garfield. So I was really excited for his performance more than anything walking into this film. Unfortunately, that got spoiled for me. I mean, I anticipated it when I saw the trailer, and that was really the only thing I paid attention to when I watched the first trailer. And it did get spoiled for me months down the line, because how could it not?
Well, it also got spoiled. It got spoiled for everybody because of assholes like John Champia who decided to post pictures that he was sent.
Yeah.
Dickhead. Yeah. Anyways.
But yeah, so I was most excited to see Andrew Garfield return in this movie. 10 out of 10 performance, by the way. I think there was phenomenal acting throughout the entire film. There were moments here and there that were pretty predictable because, I mean, that's what it followed the arc that all of the Spider-Mans that we've seen so far have had, in movies, I mean. But yeah, phenomenal acting from Tom Holland, Andrew Garfield, Willem Dafoe, Marissa Tomei. Those were really the actors that stood out to me in this film. And I was paying attention to the acting for the most part. I don't care about the action. I don't care about the Easter eggs. I just wanted to see a good performance, and that's what it was. So yeah.
You brought up an interesting point when you started about how Andrew Garfield is your Spider-Man, and obviously that's based on like, you know, generations and whatnot. I mean, you are a fetus. Monroe back there, I'm sure she's a fetus too. It's okay.
She's flipping you off right now.
Like a fetus would.
My God.
I'm gonna be 40 this year, so it's a little bit different.
I'm turning 40.
Yeah, the big 40 this year. So, I'm actually, you know, I'm excited. I'm not gonna do anything, but whatever. That is an interesting concept to the people who went to this movie, because you had people in this movie whose Spider-Man was Tobey Maguire. And then you had people going in that Andrew Garfield was Spider-Man. And then you had people going in that Tom Holland was their Spider-Man. So you had this large, and I think they treated every generation well with the nostalgia in the way they handled the whole thing. I do, later on, after we discuss this movie, I do want to go and kind of dive onto Amazing Spider-Man 2 and some of the future coming up where people are now like begging for an Amazing Spider-Man 3 kind of thing and whatnot. And I find that fascinating. And just to touch on that, to kind of lay a little seed on that discussion, people hated that movie. It's an awful movie. Like, it's just not a well done film. It's nothing against Andrew. Andrew's fantastic in it. The movie's not done well, and it bombed. And like, it didn't bomb in a sense, like it still made money, because comic book movies, especially at that time, they're gonna make money. But like,
Mm-hmm.
it's funny to me because a lot of the people that before Spider-Man No Way Home came out, these people were talking about how Amazing Spider-Man 2 is the worst one. Da, 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 there's all these things. And then after the movie, those same people are begging for Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man 3, and that Amazing Spider-Man 2 doesn't get the love it's supposed to get. And I find that the hypocrisy of it all. And a lot of it does come down to Andrew Garfield and his performance in this film, because away from that script, away from that movie, people saw, oh yeah, he is really good as Spider-Man. So we'll discuss that after we discuss this movie. I just want to lay that little bit of groundwork there. I find that fascinating. Um,
And again, like this is what separates me from most Marvel moviegoers, is that I really am not headstrong on my opinions when it comes to how these characters are represented, because I do not have close relationships to the characters in the comic books. But at the end of the day, I'm gonna go, yeah, Andrew Garfield is a phenomenal actor. There is not one role he's played that I didn't like him in. So, and that's what made the movie for me, was phenomenal acting.
yeah.
So,
Well, the thing about like Amazing Spider-Man 2, it's not so much that the comic book fan is upset at it. They are, but like even the casual fan, the people who aren't comic book heavy, the ones that are just fans of the character or fans of the movie, like a fan of the first film. Okay, I've never read the comic books, but I saw Amazing Spider-Man. I enjoyed it. I'm ready for the sequel, and then the sequel comes out, and it's just, it was convoluted. It was jumpy. It
well,
was, they tried
okay,
to.
but here's the thing. Because we now have multiple versions of Spider-Man, I think it is unfair for any fan to go, oh, this Spider-Man was played wrong or written wrong or
Oh
just
no,
didn't
no, no,
work, because the whole point now is that there are different versions. We're allowed
variants.
to
Yeah,
see different nuances in each interpretation of them, which
well,
is what I love. I don't want the same thing over and over and over
exactly,
again.
exactly. I don't think
So,
the argument for Amazing Spider-Man 2 being bad was ever Andrew Garfield. It was never him. People, he's always the shining exception in that movie. He's always like, he's great, but the script was bad. He's great, but the story was convoluted and they jammed too much into it. And that was
mhm,
Sony trying to like Easter egg, Easter egg, Easter egg for the
mhm,
sake of Easter egg instead of for the sake of story, like for the sake of it making
yeah.
sense. Whereas like in Spider-Man No Way Home, Spider-Man Far From Home, Spider-Man Homecoming, there are little Easter eggs that if you watch on, they're not focal point Easter eggs. They
Yeah.
are like a license plate that happens to have a comic book of the origin of that character on the license plate. It's something that when you're watching it, like for the fifth or sixth time, you catch kind of thing. Or somebody who literally, as their career deep dives into these movies, like say, you know, Theories by T or New Rockstars or somebody like that, it's a fun puzzle hunt for them, but it doesn't. It's not a focal point, and that's the difference. Whereas in this one, it was all about, let's jam as much crap in there to try to like build a They were trying to build a universe not off the first film and then the second film.
Mhm.
They realized after the first film that they have a new universe. Now let's build the entire universe off this one movie, and that's just too, it
Yeah.
was just too much. And then you
This is
had,
the part of the conversation where I want to make the point. I don't think we know what is a good superhero movie today, for two reasons. One, everyone has different expectations of what goes into a good superhero movie. So when you find writers and directors that are trying to develop that, there's too much conflict in the vision for the piece as a whole and everything it will be connected to down the future. And
I
two,
did it again.
we are now a decade into large superhero movies taking over box offices, and young people especially are now being trained, subconsciously being trained to expect specific things out of superhero movies, and when they don't get that in return, they get frustrated by not seeing it. Personally, I think good storytelling is the removal of spectacle and everything unnecessary. But Marvel has, the MCU has trained us to crave a lot of action, a lot of badass moments, and those Easter egg moments. So I think that this Spider-Man movie, in comparison to the ones before and what we've seen through the MCU up until the fourth wave, is very well balanced. That's the biggest note I have on it, is that it felt balanced between the acting, the action, the storytelling, and all that.
They're fine. They're fine. Don't worry about it. It's okay. They're not that loud. We hear them in the background.
I'm so sorry that I have college roommates.
Yeah, exactly. It's fine. It's fine. Monroe can be your bouncer. She can go out there.
And Monroe's my bouncer. She's leaving right now. Just politely go, shh.
What I find fascinating is it's the fact that we still have to debate what is a good comic book movie nowadays. In that Avengers Endgame is a phenomenal film in my eyes. But you know what else is a phenomenal film? The Suicide Squad by James Gunn. And they're two incredibly different films.
Yes.
Like, tonally, like, there are similarities if you bring it down to the very core of it. But The Suicide Squad is this over-the-top, R-rated, in-your-face, funny movie, but it's an ensemble comic book movie. Avengers Endgame was a more serious, still had its quips, but it was this culmination film. So, like, I love both of those. I don't understand why in today's day and age we still have the Marvel versus DC argument, why we have this is good, this isn't.
Yeah.
You can like everything and it's okay. Like, you can like certain things. At the same time, like a movie like The Joker with Joaquin Phoenix. Joaquin, is it Jacques or is it
Joaquin?
It's Joaquin Phoenix.
Joaquin Phoenix.
Wah. Like Wawas. My East Coast people get that one. That movie is a great movie actor-wise. Like, the performances in that film are great. The movie itself is not good. But if you took out the name of the city Gotham, which they mentioned once, if you took out the name the Waynes, and you took out the Joker, and just made it about a guy losing his mind, having this mental disability, and then going nuts, it's a good film. By making it a comic book movie, I think to the detriment of the film, it's not good anymore. And I know, like, because part of the problem with a comic book movie is the expectation of the character. Yes, there are many people such as yourself who do not have the comic book history of the character. But the main target audience of a comic book movie are the people with the comic book history. That is the main target audience. So when you then take a character, especially one as incredibly well known as the Joker, arguably the greatest comic book villain of all time, and then you just bastardize the character, that's a problem for people. It's just like that character has gotten so many different iterations. There's the Heath Ledger, which many people believe is the best version. I love that version, but I don't think it's the best. There's the Jack Nicholson. There's the Cesar Romero from the '66 Joker. There's the Jared Leto.
Yep.
I will say I'm going to give him one bit of credit, by the way. Well, two. One, the look of the character was not his call. That was absolutely the director, and the director has actually apologized for that. But two, I thought he had one hell of a Joker laugh. Like, Jared Leto's Joker laugh is like really good.
I'll say
but that's
this.
Just a laugh.
With my actor mind, I'm not just looking at the delivery of the performance itself, but I'm thinking about how easy would it be for me to replicate that, or understanding the steps taken for that actor to get into that role. Joaquin Phoenix's Joker was a great performance, but I have a little bit less respect for that performance as opposed to Jared Leto's, because I know how to do what Joaquin Phoenix did.
Yeah.
Whereas what Jared Leto did, I wouldn't necessarily say it was a better interpretation or a better performance, but I can't do what Jared Leto did. I can't do what Heath Ledger did. So I know that sounds weird, but yeah.
You can't do what Jared Leto did because it's illegal. But oh, we're talking about the movie. My bad. Anyways,
are we gonna talk about his cult or
no?
Okay,
no.
Mind. Moving on.
No. By the way, you know who else has? You remember the movie 10 Things I Hate About You?
Yes.
Remember the hot guy who ends up being a dick? He had a long hair. The younger sister likes him a lot, and he ends up being a dickhead. Yep. He has a cult. He has a legit cult now. Like, he runs a cult.
Wonderful.
Yeah, it's weird.
Wonderful.
It's supposed to be like this hippie love fest kind of thing, but it's absolutely a cult.
I mean, that's what most of them are. So,
yeah. Anyways, just little
or
fun
groups
fact.
with the intent to avoid taxes.
That's your TGN fun fact for the day.
Somebody clip that.
But yeah, it's like, yeah, the Joker performance in the movie The Joker, Phoenix's performance there. You're right. It doesn't feel unique. It's a great performance, and I even can accept him winning the best Oscar, mainly because that year there wasn't a lot to choose from. And I mean, let's be honest. Also, it's a bullshit award. Whatever. I want one, but it's a bullshit award. But like, I thought like Robert De Niro was great in it. I think Robert De Niro stole the show in that, actually. Yeah, it's just, like I said, it felt like if you had taken the comic book references out of it, and there were so few of them anyways, if you had just changed the name of it from the Joker to something else, and then taken out the instead of it being Thomas Wayne, Thomas Jones or whatever, and it's New York City instead of Gotham, you know, like, you change those three things, and suddenly this movie is just a look at somebody with a mental disability. And by the end of the film, you're questioning, did any of it actually happen, or was it all in his mind? Because the clock didn't change over to the psychiatrist's office. It had only gone, you know, there's all these questions and whatnot. But you don't question that now because it's the Joker. So you know the Joker kills. You know the Joker causes anarchy. And
here's something else. So
I promise you we will talk about Spider-Man No Way Home at some point.
Yeah, I'm about to connect them again. Okay. Style of acting is extremely important when it comes to the tone of a movie, and the believability of it all. I'm a person who prefers naturalism as a style, or natural realism.
That's it, ladies and gentlemen. You heard it here first. Lily is a nudist. She prefers naturalism. Is that not the same thing? We're not talking. Okay, go on.
No, not at all. Naturalism is a style of performance where everything is, for lack of a better term, hyper-realistic, where it is the performance in front of you is so believable that you forget that you are sitting in an audience chair right there. You're locked into the emotion and the circumstances of the moment. Now, we don't get that a lot with the MCU movies because it's all superheroes. You know, it's fantasy, very difficult to go, oh, this is real life. These are actual people with things that they're struggling with on a day-to-day basis. Let's hone in on that. Let's show that through the camera. Instead, it is bigger picture, hero versus villain. You don't have the time to flush out every nuance in each character, and you know, then there's a whole thing of like villains not having.
It's Beowulf on a grand scale.
So with No Way Home, I really appreciated that we had so many moments of heartbreak and grief because that locked us into the characters again. We're human beings. You know, we all have been through shit or will go through shit in one way or another multiple times throughout our lifetime. So there were so many moments. Sorry, the fire trucks. There were so many moments where I went, oh my gosh, yes, I felt that before. Amazing performance on the actor's part for grounding me in the moment. Speaking of moments that I really appreciated or had a large reaction to. The death of Aunt May, in particular, was one of them, and then the rooftop scene
Yeah.
where Toby and Andrew are talking it out with Tom. And then the biggest moment for me of the entire movie. I predicted this. I have a TikTok video that proves that I predicted this. But it's Andrew's redemption moment where he catches
Yeah.
oh my god.
MJ.
MJ. I almost said Mary, but it's not Mary. It's Michelle.
Michelle Jones
Yes.
Watson. Yeah.
When he catches MJ from falling off of the scaffolding. I was with my two friends, Jared and Monroe, in the theater. Jared was between Monroe and I, and just to recreate my reaction, I jumped out of my seat. I was like this. I was clinging onto Jared's shoulder and practically tearing his jacket off of him. And then I reached across Jared to Monroe on the other side, and I was just pulling them, sobbing, trying to not scream or, like yelp out because I was like, it happened. It finally happened. It finally, yeah, I fucking know, sort of a thing.
I thought that scene was done really well. I do love how so many people predicted that was going to happen, but they predicted it in the wrong way, because they were saying that, oh, if you look at the hand that's reaching down for her, it's not Tom's hand, it's Andrew's hand. But it's
I
not.
made a point to say that it could have been CGI and Marvel throwing
it was
us
actually
in the wrong direction.
in that scene. You notice it's Tom reaching down.
Yes,
and then
suit.
he gets snagged away, and then Andrew dives down. He doesn't reach out. He dives further past her, catches her, and drops down, having learned from his mistake before.
Yep.
And for him to immediately start crying, I thought that was really emotional. I love that the "I love you" scene where he says "I love you guys" was ad-lib, which is why the two reactions are so real. Andrew's like, "I love you guys," and they're like, "Okay, thanks." It was, that scene is ad-lib. He that wasn't in the script, so he ad-libbed that.
I love that.
I thought when Toby got stabbed, that was an incredibly emotional scene, because I thought oh my god, they just killed him off.
Yeah.
And I was pissed.
Yeah.
But I think one of the highlights of this movie is William Dafoe.
Yes.
And
oh my god, yes.
I have to say, when he signed on to the movie, of course, he's in his 60s. I think he's almost 70.
Huh. Wouldn't be
surprised. Let me look up his age real quick, but I'll tell the story. When he
Yeah.
signed up for the movie, he said that there was one condition.
Mm-hmm.
He's born in 55, so he's as old as my mother. Oh, July 22nd. Nice. He's 66. All right.
Oh, nice. Looking good for 66.
Yeah. He had one big caveat before he signed on, was that he wanted to do the action scenes. So that's that big fight scene in the apartment complex where he's literally it looked like a hardcore WWE match. He was power bombing them through things. There was Hurricane Ranas. There was the elbow punching. That's Willem Dafoe for the most part. And that scene is very visceral. And even though it's a big action scene, I thought it was very visceral and very you felt it. And it felt like the most impactful fight that any Spider-Man has ever had in any of the films.
Yeah.
It just felt more real, more impactful, more holy crap, he is taking damage.
I gotta say, I was taken out of it a little bit in the moment where they were going through the floors, but because it was just so gritty and kept going, that maintained the holy shit aspect of it.
I actually really appreciated them going through the floors, because you have somebody, Spider-Man can catch a car. He can lift 10 tons. Green Goblin is very similar in power levels, but he's also psychotic, so he's not feeling the pain of it. So them going to the floor, it makes sense, because what it also showed was that, and this is where you have to know about fight mechanics, the impact of the two of them together is creating such a force, they're breaking through concrete. So I actually appreciated the through the floor thing. Not again, going back to Suicide Squad, where we had the moment where Idris Elba's character is dropping floor to floor to floor.
Mm-hmm.
That actually,
which is solely for comedy, but
yeah, because that also just wouldn't happen. The second he hit the first floor, he wouldn't have stayed on his feet. It wouldn't happen. Yeah. That to me, it felt real. He was hitting him and driving him so hard it was going through the concrete. So I actually appreciated that. But the moment to me that really stands out is that moment of the spider sense one, Tom's spider sense is so now in tune that he
Mm-hmm.
felt worried about May 15 minutes before the death happened.
I'm so glad that we got to see all of that play out.
Yeah.
I love those moments where, okay, so how deep do I want to get into this? I mean, okay, yeah. So to me, when I'm watching a performance, I have this slight expectation that the actor will show the audience what that character is thinking without having to say anything. We see that change of expression in Tom Holland's face, which is then aided by the tone of the music, which is heightening the stakes in the scene.
And
I
the that first person, the camera view too, when he's walking through, that helped too.
Yes, because it's solely focused on him.
I'm eating M&Ms.
I don't think the Spidey sense in particular was like uh sensing danger for Aunt May in particular. I think it was just like, someone is switching. Someone is stressed, is anxious, and that's exactly what was going on with Norman. So
Remember, when he comes into the room, he literally says, May, because the danger was pointed to her.
true. True.
It wasn't just a switch in the goblin. But
Mm-hmm.
Willem Dafoe's switch, the second the webbing hits his hand,
Mm-hmm.
and he goes from this timid, like, help me, to the goblin again.
Yeah. Oh
And
my
it's
God.
almost like
So
it's
good.
almost like DID with the split personality, and the personality took over and basically said Norman's not here anymore.
Norman's on sabbatical,
yeah.
baby.
But like that switch and that maniacal smile,
Uh-huh.
and like that smile never went away during the fight. Like he's getting punched in the face
Yeah.
over and over, and he's just smiling all the time. Oh,
Okay,
just so well done.
Another note, because we mentioned Aunt May, I cannot stand it in writing when a woman turns to a man and goes, "What do we do now?" Or, "I'm so confused, I'm so lost, I don't know what to do." May is the exact opposite of that, and thank God they wrote her well for this movie, because when things start to go wrong, who is the person to go around and collect all the devices that will fix all of the villains there? May.
Yeah.
Who is the person who has got a plan, barefooted, running around that building? May. Like, she's not hesitating. She's not waiting for permission for anything, which makes sense for the character in terms of who she is and her age in particular. Like, she's freaking on it. I'm glad that finally we have a superhero movie where the woman is not going, "What do we do now?" You know?
Yeah,
So.
I think Marvel did that really well, and I also think that was Kevin Feige's input, and because I'm not sure Sony would have done that. So I feel like that was definitely Kevin Feige's input for sure. Yeah, I think May was done really well. I don't agree with a lot of people saying that she was fridged. And what fridging is, it's a comic book term. And let me tell a quick story. In a Green Lantern comic, when Kyle Rayner had taken over as Green Lantern after Hal Jordan had gone nuts, one of the villains found out who he was and found out who his girlfriend was. His girlfriend had really not really appeared much. She had just kind of shown up, been talked about, not really she was very one-dimensional. Like, it was very much like she had not been a fleshed out character. Kyle Rayner comes home to find his girlfriend murdered and shoved in the fridge. In other words, the character was developed solely as motivation for the male hero. And this is where the term fridging comes from. And there's a very famous comic book writer, and I cannot remember her name. I don't know why it suddenly escaped me. But she went through and listed over 100 different versions of fridging in comic books.
Oof.
And there's always been the argument, well, technically Uncle Ben, wasn't Uncle Ben the male version of that? No, there is no male version of fridging. Because it's that character was constantly coming up later. Like, Uncle Ben is a character that's he's reapproached and he's reapproached and he's reapproached, and he was the strong male father figure for Peter, not the helpless girlfriend who gets killed or the helpless wife who gets killed kind of thing. And he's not one-dimensional because, again, that character gets revisited all the time in flashbacks and whatnot. So the fact that May got to be the exact opposite of fridging. Like, yes, she did die to motivate Peter. but it motivated him almost in the wrong direction because he was out for revenge. She instilled the with great power there must also come great responsibility, which, by the way, yes, she said it differently than the other two films. That's the way it was actually said in the comic books. She actually says it exactly how it's supposed to be said.
Nice.
The line, it's one of those like Luke, I am your father moments where the line is actually no, I am your father.
I am your father. Yeah.
So like she was also established over 3 films as this strong character in his life.
Yeah.
That raised him, had a huge impact on him. So she was not fridge, and I think that people saying that she was fridge need to like get a life. I appreciate.
Can I also mention? One of her first moments in the movie is her rejecting Happy.
Yeah.
Is that one of or the first moment?
The first moment is the breakup. Yeah.
Yep. Just I love that she's a strong, independent woman, and she don't need no man.
Well, it was also the fact that like for her, it was never anything serious. It was just a fling.
Yeah.
Because that's what flings are. You know, it was just a fling. And
or
she
her
actually
avoiding attachment for the sake of.
I mean, she went through a lot. Uncle Ben died. Her husband Ben died. You know, but also
she doesn't need complicated in her life.
That wasn't a how do we get out of this relationship moment, because in Far From Home she also made it pretty clear it was just a fling. Happy had taken it further than what, you know, in his mind it was more, you know, more of a thing than
quite reflective of most men today, I think. Women realizing that they don't need to be in a relationship, and guys going, but I need you.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think there's something, you know, that doesn't get talked about enough, I think, at all, is the fact that a lot of times you see about a woman being upset over losing a man and a man moving on. But a lot of times a woman can move on and understand, like, you know, she has the emotional aptitude to be like, this didn't work out. I'm going to be okay. Not that it doesn't hurt, but they understand it and they are able to establish and develop the beginnings of reconciliation inside themselves much faster than men. And men, because men aren't allowed to have
kicks in faster.
Well, it's also because men aren't allowed to have emotion, that when they get hit with something hard like that, it hits them harder because they've never been allowed to process emotion in the first place. It's a whole other conversation, but I did appreciate that. And like I said, that was, again, that's not something that just happened in that movie. It was something that was established in the last movie as well. They did a really good job with all these characters of establishing who they were. We did get Matt Murdock.
And I know what you're gonna say. I know you're gonna be like, it's not canon. It's not the Matt Murdock that we've seen on Netflix.
I actually wasn't gonna say that. I was just gonna ask your reaction to it.
Okay. Let me put it this way. I love Daredevil. I have not finished Daredevil yet. Do I? I'm trying to figure out how much I want to say. I don't think it was necessary to have that character in the movie. I don't think we needed that moment really at all. And this is actually an issue that I have with the film, because they use that in the beginning to establish this realism of, oh shit, Peter facing the consequences, as you know, as a young man going, what the fuck do I do, you know, facing rejection everywhere he goes, and yet at the very end it's like he's how do I put this, everyone has forgotten about him. Even Aunt May. Like, Peter does not...
She was dead before the spell, but
still, like, she would not have known him. Peter is still able to get an apartment. You know? So okay. I guess what this is really tying into is the privilege that I see from the writers. If you have never been in circumstances like this in your own life, you don't know how the real world would actually respond, or how they would respond to you. the first thing that I thought of was, okay, so how does he prove he exists? Social security number, birth certificate, yada, yada, yada. The ending could not possibly have been possible if this was the real world.
Well, let me explain how it actually works. People forget that Peter Parker existed. That doesn't negate his birth certificate. That doesn't negate his social security number. It just means anybody who's ever met him no longer remembers he exists. His birth certificate still exists. His social security number still exists. Also, technically, there are people off planet who still know who he is because the spell was for the world. Mm-hmm. Now, because it was a multiverse thing, you could say it expanded to the multiverse, so that means everybody in the universe would forget. So Captain Marvel, Nick Fury, who are off planet, whatever. But he is still Peter Parker. He didn't take a new name. He still has the same social security number. He still has the same birth certificate. But nobody at like the school he went to remembers him going there. That kind of stuff is gone. So that's why you see him having to get his GED to go to college. He's going to go to NYU, which fits in with the character. That doesn't the spell was not to erase Peter Parker from existence.
It's just erase the memory of him.
Yeah, it was just a memory.
Still, is not flushed out enough for me to truly comprehend what that would look like in the real world.
Well, that's going to happen in the next film.
But I mean, before all of that, if we had to see what the world looked like if they did not know who Peter Parker was or don't remember him existing at all. Anyway, I would have handled those scenes in particular of him and his friends facing the repercussions of them knowing, of the world knowing that he's Spider-Man. I would have done that differently. Don't know exactly how yet, because frankly I haven't put too much thought into changing it or how I would do it differently. But towards the end I was just like, really?
Well, I would say
everything. The fact that he's still able to get an apartment.
Well, so here's the other thing about that, and this was something that was brought up. The spell was to affect everybody alive that remembered him. So technically, all of his family are dead. All of his family. Mm. He would still have all the hereditary rights to Aunt May's money. Not that there was a lot of it. His parents' money, Uncle Ben's money. So he would have some money that he could get an apartment. He would still have his credit as an 18-year-old. You know, he would still have, there's things to do. Now, granted, technically, in New York, he shouldn't have been able to get an apartment at 18 years old. Uh-huh. Technically. But I don't know the rules when it comes to somebody who technically is an orphan. They don't have the ability to have a co-signer at that point. So, how does that work? Now, granted, this also is supposed to, if you notice, the apartment is an exact flip replica of Tobey Maguire's apartment from the first movie. Yeah, it's literally, you take that apartment and you flip it. Dices and Dishes over on YouTube asked if they've touched on Peter's parents. No, I think there was a quick moment about, the fact that he had to live with his aunt and uncle at a young age was mentioned in like an offshoot sentence in maybe the first movie. And I appreciate them not touching on his parents because that story is convoluted and stupid in the comics. Because all of a sudden his parents come back to life and it turns out they were super spies and they didn't really die. But then it turns out that they did die and that those were robots and they were evil robots. And it was this whole convoluted bullshit. Yeah. But it turns out that the story about them being super spies was true, and that was why they left. And they kind of touched on that a little bit with Amazing Spider-Man in the second one, where his dad was trying to escape the stuff.
Hidden pocket in the
had this secret subway, which somehow he was able to build in New York. That's far more unbelievable than, say, an 18-year-old getting an apartment in New York.
Still unbelievable.
I mean, maybe, but I don't see a problem as far, like I said, he still has a social security number. He still is Peter Parker. They didn't erase Peter Parker from existence, including his social or his birth certificate or anything like that. It's just the memory of him. So that means it would be like,
okay,
that would be like if you were an orphan. Not that I wish that on anybody, but let's say you were an orphan, your family's dead. It's awful. Sorry, but you live out in California, your family's dead, and you just move to New York. Nobody there knows who you are. Nobody knows who you are. It's that same thing. It's like Peter just moved to a new, unfortunately, in this case, a new planet because the whole world knew who he was for a time because it was all over the news. But it's just like moving to a new town where nobody knows who you are. It's that same aspect. It doesn't change who you are. It doesn't change your birth certificate or your whatever. It's not witness protection in a way. It's just the fact that nobody has ever met him before. It's as if Peter Parker grew up for 18 years in a cave. Born legally, had a family, his family passed away, he grew up in a cave, nobody ever saw him. Now at 18 he comes out and now people can meet him.
Anyway, so suspension of disbelief towards the end, I was like, all right. I will say, of all the movies to handle the everyone in your life has forgotten you, and so now you have to start over with them, I like this one. I like it. And the moments with Mary Jane, I did not, or MJ, not Mary Jane. My God, did this before. It's Michelle. I think that it felt natural, not too forced. Of course, their relation, Zendaya and her relationship to Tom, in the real world, plays so much into their on-screen chemistry. So it was a nice ending. But back to Daredevil, Matt Murdock, and that whole conversation.
Real quick before we leave the MJ part, she is still wearing the Black Dahlia necklace. Dyson Dishes brought that up. Yeah, she is still wearing the necklace, the broken Dahlia necklace. She is still wearing it in the diner when he comes in to see her. Mm-hmm. I think it was a very
doesn't know where it came from.
Maybe I don't know if she because I think that what'll happen eventually is that they will find a way to remember because a spell can be broken via other stronger magic.
There's probably a spell out there to use the necklace as a token that will
also remember this,
bring all the memories back or whatever. But
what was one of the biggest magic movie franchises of all time? Harry Potter, right? What was the strongest spell in all of that? Love. Love was stronger than any other magic.
Yep.
It's a romantical idea, but it's an idea that I happen to love. And the fact that love can conquer all, it's great. It's not real, but that was cynical. I'm lonely.
Love is delusion. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Children?
I'm lonely. Very lonely. Anyways, no, I think that'll be interesting. So the fact that she's wearing a necklace is great. On the Daredevil thing, I felt like this is my one gripe with the film. I love the movie. But it felt like two movies. It felt like when they initially wrote the script, the original plan was to focus on him dealing with his identity being out there, him, being charged with murder, and the fact that they very much none of this is going to stick, you're good. It's a fucking murder charge. A murder of a superhero. How is this not going to stick? How are they not it just I liked Matt being there. For me, it was one of those things when at the very end of Far From Home, leaving the theater, I had the theory that Matt Murdock would be his lawyer. I had that theory leaving Far From Home. So I was okay with him bringing him in because there are two main lawyers in all of Marvel, Daredevil and She-Hulk. So one of the two of those being his lawyer, I like that idea, especially especially in She-Hulk's case, she purposely defends superhero cases, but a lot of times she's defending bad people, which is weird. But, so I had that theory the second I left Far From Home, but it felt like when they decided to go this multiverse route and bring in Toby and bring in Andrew and bring in all the other villains, they just okay, well, let's rush through this to explain the end of that movie, and then we'll get to this movie. And that I felt was weird. I felt like that first part was a little rushed because, like I said, how does that not? That's where my suspension of disbelief got messed up. It's all of a sudden these charges gets off the phone. Yeah, these charges aren't going to stick. How are murder charges coming from the man murdered? Is telling you who is the one killing him in a video. How is that not going to stick? And then it's proven that you had control of the drones because Tony Stark left him to you, and there's obviously paperwork for that. How does that not stick? How is there not a case? How is there not a trial?
Yep.
So I think that issue I would have loved to seen a court scene with Matt Murdock defending him. That would have made more sense to me than just sitting at the table. But I thought him catching a brick was a cool little moment.
This also goes back to my whole privileged writers sort of a thing, because it's not just about the fact that the people writing this script haven't had experiences anywhere near what they are trying to put on paper, put in this movie, but that this audience, this target audience, could have the benefit of having a taste of what that is like in the real world. I'm not talking about a murder charge against an 18-year-old superhero. I'm just talking about what the court systems are like in the United States, period.
Yeah, it felt very white privilege.
Yeah, which is fitting because Peter
is a white kid.
Is a young white kid. At least in the first season of Daredevil, we kind of see some of that. We kind of see what it's like to plead a not guilty case for someone who has nothing to do with the murder or attack of another individual. But still, it's disheartening to see those missed opportunities.
So Shinso says, when in doubt, Christian can bail you out, spelled B-A-L-E.
Ha 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 ha, but
Which, by the way, Lily, just FYI, you keep slowly shifting to your left more and more and more. You're almost off screen.
Sorry.
That's all right. There you go. Yeah, no, I felt like that was a little bit, it was like, crap, this movie's already kind of long. We got to answer this, but they kind of just shoved it in there, and I felt like that was a little bit blah. So it felt like two separate movies.
Wasn't the worst. I wouldn't say that it felt like two separate movies entirely. It's just there was a clear introduction to the film that had a different taste than everything else. I think the first 30 minutes were a bit rushed, but I understand why. They were trying to cram all of that lost my train of thought. They were just trying to cram all of that into a short amount of time so that they could get to everything else faster.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, it felt like they had one plan for the movie. Then there was that whole fall apart where Sony and Disney kind of like had a messy breakup. They reconciled, got back together, and then like, well, what do we do something even bigger? And like, it was kind of like let's prove to everybody this was not a bad idea to get back with our ex, and let's have this big blowout party. And that was where they brought in everybody else and everything. So like, it just like, when I say two different movies, I wouldn't want to see a whole movie of him fighting this trial. Although that could be done. Like you could do like a film similar to like The Judge with Robert De Niro. Not Robert De Niro, Robert Downey Jr. It was a movie he did after Iron Man called The Judge, where his father's a judge and ends up accidentally killing somebody and goes on trial. You could have done it would have been interesting to see just a court movie. Like it'd have been interesting to see that trial play out. And then in the meantime, Peter's having to like fight crime on the side while also being on trial. Would have been interesting. But I just felt like there was just, like I said, it was just like crap. Now we want to go this other route, but we have to resolve this issue. Obviously he's being charged with murder. We have to resolve. And then like there was the whole Mysterio was right movement, like where people like that's important, especially in today's day and age, this dichotomy of the opinions. And again, it was all very rushed. It was all very just, So
there was slight commentary there on cancel culture and how the media can be a powerful tool in manipulating people.
Joe Rogan.
Excuse me. and building one strong side of the story, which I thought was excellently shown through this movie, because there were moments where I was like, oh fuck, I bet if Lily existed in this universe in New York City for this movie, she definitely would have believed that Mysterio was right. So, yeah.
Well, you're an awful, awful human being then. No, I mean,
it's a strong case, okay?
I honestly, like, I don't know if I ever would have believed it, only because at the time, Peter was an established hero who had been fighting in New York for a long time. He was a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. People knew who he was. Not Peter, but Spider-Man. And then this new hero just shows up, and at the same time, these bad guys show up. It's all very convenient. So I don't think, and then to consider, this child just killed somebody. I don't know. I don't know if I would have believed it myself, but maybe. Who knows? It just feel like it'd be a big swing from.
It fits the trope of a young person trying to do the right thing, but royally fucks up.
Maybe, except for that wasn't framed that way. It was framed like he was execute them all. Like the whole thing was him.
The way that's how I heard it, though. That, or at least it was in that moment in particular. When the footage is cut to him saying "execute them all," I hear a very young, very scared boy acting on impulse. So
yeah, it just the fact that Mysterio basically blamed all of the attacks on Peter and everything. I just thought that would be something where people would be like, wait a minute, he's been saving all these people. Why would he suddenly? And he already basically had the keys to the Avengers once Tony died. Like, why would he? I don't know. It would be a weird situation to come across if you lived in a world of superheroes. Also, you have like Captain America and all these other people that kind of vouch for him. Like at the time. I mean, granted they were considered dead, but I mean like this trusted superhero. Like everybody trusted Iron Man, even though the reality was Iron Man was the villain through most of the MCU. He caused most of the issues, but people don't know that. They just saw the superhero side of it. So the fact that like it would just be weird. Like, and of course, like also the other side of that is like Peter made a comment, which first off, damage control shouldn't have been the people to take him in, because damage control is not a police force. Damage control is a cleanup crew. They established that in Homecoming. They were that in the comic books. They were there to clean up after superhero battles. That's what they were established for. So why they suddenly became a police force didn't make any sense to me, but whatever. When Peter says, ask Nick Fury, ask this person, ask that person, like there were plenty of people to vouch for Spider-Man that they should have approached. But we didn't really get to explore any of that because, again, that whole part gets kind of rushed through. And the fact that it's just like the lawyer makes a phone call and suddenly the charges are dropped because they can't make it stick. How could you not make it stick? Like, there was so much evidence from a video of the person being murdered in the moment. I don't know. It just felt weird. That felt weird to me. And so that I had an issue with. But other than that, after that moment where the movie starts to really take off, I really love Alfred Molina, Jamie Foxx, Derailed 727. Thank you for the sub. You get a dancing penguin.
Yay! So funny enough, like okay, I've mentioned this several times before in other episodes. I don't like to watch trailers before going into a movie because it sets up expectations for me for what the movie is going to be like. The trailer implied that Alfred Molina or Doc Ock was going to have a friendship, perhaps a close mentorship with Peter. And I mean, we get a lot of really great acting moments where we see Doc Ock, changing his mind about things, or like actually thinking, okay, wait, there's something a little deeper here, because his whole world has just been opened up a little more, like what, magic, etc. But really the focus after that was shifted to Norman and the sympathy for Norman, which I really liked.
But I think we still got that bit of mentorship from Doc, because once the inhibitor chip was put back on and he was able to take control of the arms away from his own mind, he fought alongside them.
For once.
But the thing was too, and why I appreciate they didn't go the full mentor route, is because Doc Ock had already been a mentor for another Peter. And so we had that moment.
Yeah.
Where Toby met him, and they hey, it's so good to see you. You look, oh my God, you look so good. That reconciliation moment, like that to me is like, I'm glad he didn't form a full bond with the new Peter. He formed a bond with him, smart kid. They had a moment, but it doesn't take away from the original bond of his Peter. Because he's also going back to his world. Like this is supposedly the last time that they'll get a chance to meet. So
I really like the moment where all the villains are entrapped in Doctor Strange's dungeon.
Yeah, his laundry room / dungeon.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, derailed our new fan says Norman was a victim of himself and circumstance, and then a victim of another personality together. And you're absolutely correct.
Yeah.
There was a definite dichotomy. Dr. Ock was never evil anyways. It was the machine in control of his brain. Again, correct. And that was from Shinso. The guilt, if you watched it and being powerless of having would have been immense. Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that moment at the end where Norman is finally cured and, oh my God, what have I done? Like that moment is so powerful.
Yeah.
Because he's not aware when he is the goblin, but he is aware of what the goblin can do.
Yep, fear of oneself. Okay, I can't remember which part of the movie this happened in, and I'm trying to figure that out, so perhaps you can answer this for me. But where in the movie do we get that moment where all of them are together and go, oh yeah, he was a great scientist, like a renowned scientist from our world, or it just felt like there was a joke in there where it's like, oh my gosh, all of these scientists who have conducted all these experiments, like, woo, science.
That moment was when after everybody was in the dungeon and Norman had come with Peter but wasn't in the cell yet. And they, or no, I'm sorry. It was the moment before he went to go find Norman. Doc Ock was talking about you're hunting you're looking for a ghost.
Okay.
And that's when that comes out. Norman respected Peter Parker originally as Peter Parker for his mind and ingenuity, as well as he respected how much his son had a friend. Yes, absolutely. Norman Osborn did love, and there was something that was kind of touched on in the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movie where Norman respected Peter more than his own son because Peter actually had the scientific mind similar to his own, whereas Harry had grown up privileged and didn't really go that route. He was smart, he just didn't care.
Yeah, well, using intelligence for one's personal gain versus for the better, or the greater good of all, so.
Yeah. But yeah, so that moment was when they were trying to find the goblin, and he was just like, you're hunting a ghost, and that's when like the discussion came out with like Sandman says that, well, Doc, you died as well.
Yeah. And well, I just chuckled because I was like, oh yeah, I forgot that in comic books and all these superhero movies, it's like, ooh, mad evil scientist who's doing a bad thing, you know. Wow, all scientists must be really, really bad, huh? You know.
Well, it's not so much that the scientist is bad, it's that it can lead scientific ambition can lead to insanity. And that's the thing is like, and that's the thing. I will say, how many hyper intelligent people border on insanity? I mean, even look at like artists like Van Gogh. You look at Albert Einstein. Some people considered like, you know, there's so many things when you are incredibly intelligent in a realm, be it science or be it art as a talent or be it even sports or whatever, when you become, you can border on that obsession, that aptitude to do something, that focus, that drive becoming obsession, and that obsession then becoming insanity. It is a very thin line.
I just wanted to point out that Van Gogh in particular was a victim of bad prescriptions and substance abuse. So there's that.
But what happens with a lot of intelligent people is that because, especially in older times, whereas their mind works so fast, they also don't understand they may be autistic because it wasn't a thing back then. So they could be neurodivergent. There could be all these different things that wasn't even understood back then. So it leads to migraines. It leads to these issues. And then how do you cope? with a science that is not a developed science.
I know. So, I'm just poking fun at the fact that most of Spider-Man's arch nemesis is that the correct word, or nemesi? Arch nemesis are
Nemesis?
mad scientists.
Nemesi?
I don't think it's nemesi. I do not understand.
Isn't it nemesis?
I don't think it's related to Latin at all. I'm just
Nemesis?
kidding. I think it is nemesis.
Nemesicity? A gaggle of enemies.
Arch nemesis.
A murder of assholes.
Yes, it's arch nemesicity.
Derailed says that
7 PhDs.
Makes you think other than saving yourself wasn't so bad. His other projects weren't so intrusive before the Goblin project. Honestly, I appreciate how Electro took interest in the Stark fusion. There was no way the Goblin wouldn't have. Exactly. Yeah, that was an interesting. Now, there are a couple moments again that felt a little weird. And I feel again, this is where I feel like the story, because they were trying to put two movies together by quickly answering the one movie and then doing this multiverse, that something's got lost in translation. If everybody that was coming through knew that Peter Parker was Spider-Man, why was Electro there? Because he never learned that Peter Parker was Spider-Man. Hell, he even thought that Spider-Man was black, which is a nod to Miles Morales.
Well, I wanted to bring that up because it is a nod to Miles Morales, but also commentary on the white savior trope.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Why did Electro come through?
I'm kind of done with it.
But why did Electro come through if he never knew that Peter Parker was Spider-Man? When it was pulling people who knew that Peter Parker was Spider-Man. That was what the spell was. The broken spell was pulling people that were... You're good, Derail. I figured it was autocorrect. That's why I said it correctly.
Because the thing that I thought of was it's not on a name basis, but an identity basis. So if you know any version of that identity, no matter what name you call them, they're going to come through.
Maybe, but I remember that like Doctor Strange specifically said that these people from these other universes knew that their Spider-Man was Peter Parker. And that's why we have that moment where he points to Doc Ock. He goes, "Do you know that Peter Parker is Spider-Man?" He goes, "Yes." "Is this Peter Parker?" "No." "Thank you." Like, that was that moment, because the way they explained it was that anybody who knew that Peter Parker was Spider-Man is coming through. Which is why originally Kirsten Dunst and Emma Stone were also supposed to be in this movie. Emma Stone was pregnant, couldn't do the film. And Kirsten Dunst, for some reason, there was I couldn't remember what the reason was.
Emma Stone is pregnant?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, or she was at the time of filming.
Whose child? Who's his child? What? I love Emma Stone. I had no idea that she was preggo.
Yeah, so they all knew who their Peter Parker was.
Not that she's going to see this, but on the off chance that she does, congratulations. I hope it wasn't a stressful delivery.
Yeah.
Speaking of delivery, but
yeah. Well, like you said, like they all knew who their Peter Parkers were. Problem is, Max, who was Electro, and I haven't seen Amazing Spider-Man 2 in a while, but I believe they only bump into each other for a very brief second as Peter Parker and Max. The rest of the interactions are with Spider-Man and Max and Spider-Man and Electro. He never knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Now, the only connection I can think of, and this is very convoluted, he knew Gwen Stacy. He knew Emma Stone's character. Max did. So maybe putting two and two together...
I haven't seen the movie in a really long time, but I think there is a moment where there is an acting choice that implies that he's making the connection. Yeah.
Maybe, but
wait, hold on. We mentioned Miles Morales for a second. Do you think that we are going to get a live action Miles Morales? Because Absolutely. I think we are. Absolutely. I hope we get it in Multiverse of Madness.
My headphones were tangled up in my wheels, and I was about to yeet myself like. Ah! No, we already laid the groundwork in Homecoming. Donald Glover's character plays Miles Morales' uncle. the Prowler. There's a deleted scene on that movie because he goes, I'm headed to a birthday. He's like, hey, get this webbing off me. My ice cream's going to melt. I'm heading to a birthday party. And he goes, sorry, it'll dissolve in 2 hours, but you're a criminal. You kind of deserve it. And he leaves. Donald Glover then calls his nephew Miles and says, hey, I'm not going to make your birthday party. They cut that scene, but that scene is on the Blu-ray. So they've already laid the groundwork.
Available on YouTube for me to watch?
Yes, I do believe it is.
Okay, cool beans.
They have laid out that Miles Morales exists already in this universe. Mm-hmm. And the fact that most of the MCU is based around what's called the Ultimate Universe, which is where Miles Morales comes from. In that universe, Peter Parker ends up dying. Like, their Spider-Man dies, which we got to see in Into the Spider-Verse, where the one Peter Parker, Miles' Peter Parker, dies. And Miles Morales takes over as Spider-Man. He then, during what's called Secret Wars, where all the universes are collapsed into one thing called Battle World. It's convoluted, I get it. But he then becomes part of the MCU. So now we have 2 Spider-Men in the MCU. We have Peter Parker, we have Miles Morales. So they've already laid the groundwork for Miles Morales, so I do believe we will get a Miles Morales. Now, This is actually great, because this second trilogy of films that they're planning is Spider-Man's college years, which are really the best years in the comic books for Spider-Man. But it also allows him to meet a young, upstart, highly intelligent kid named Miles Morales, and he can actually train him, kind of like how they do in the game. In the Spider-Man game, where Miles is helping out in the game, gets bit by a spider, by the end of the game, he reveals himself to Peter Parker. Then in the Miles Morales spin-off game, he's training him and helping him become Spider-Man.
Nice.
So that is something they can do now. So Peter Parker in college could find this 15-year-old kid at a science fair, because Miles Morales is equally as smart. He's an incredibly intelligent kid, and he won this amazing science fair with like a fusion reactor or some crap. I forgot what it was exactly, but like so Peter could find him at this event. They could spider sense each other, like, wait a minute, and then they can go from there. So the fact that you now have a clean slate for Peter where nobody knows him, he could train this kid in secret. And being that Miles would be the only one who knows his identity at the time. Which like, Peter has more time with the Avengers, or with the MCU as well. So he will have to reveal his identity. Because here's the thing. The Avengers still know Spider-Man. They still know Spider-Man fought with them on Titan. They still know Spider-Man was there at Endgame. They just don't know his name is Peter Parker.
Okay. Interesting.
So there's a lot that can be done here. So I do think we will get a Miles Morales here sooner rather than later.
When does Multiverse of Madness come out?
March. No, I take that back. Batman is March, I believe. Doctor Strange 2 is May.
I don't want to wait.
I don't want to wait that long either. Damn it. Oh, come on.
There's plenty of content for us to watch until then, but
March 4th is Batman, which looks phenomenal. It could easily be the best Batman movie ever. I'm really excited.
Did you say May 4th?
Yeah. Yeah. Star Wars Day.
Are you flipping kidding me?
Star Wars Day. But Obi-Wan is not coming out on May 4th.
I know! That's another reason why I'm frustrated. What the heck?
So, but, yeah, so we got...
Why? You're just toying with my feelings as a Star Wars fan now. Not you. Sorry, but damn.
I was about to say, I'm not Kendall. I don't have toys. They made the original Spider-Man toys. Anyways, we've got March 4th, the Batman. We got March 30th is Moon Knight.
Uh-huh.
Oh my god. I'm so excited for that show.
I know nothing about it, but I love Oscar Isaac, and I can't wait to see his performance. So
all I can tell you is that, and I'm without spoiling anything, Moon Knight is kind of like Batman, but he does have some superpowers because he is powered by the god of the moon, by the Egyptian god of the moon.
Okay.
But it may all be fake. It may all be in his head because he has severe DID. He has 4 personalities. And they did this amazing comic book run about 10 years ago where it turned out that all his adventures of Moon Knight were possibly made up in his head. And he didn't have powers, and it was all part of a split personality issue. and they're going to approach the show that way. You've already seen it because in the show his name is Steve, but then he gets a phone call and they ask for Mark. Moon Knight's real name is Mark Spector. And he goes, "Oh my God, Mark, where have you been?" And he goes, "Why did you call me Mark?" And they're really diving into the whole it's going to be fun. And I love Ethan Hawke too. I think Ethan Hawke's amazing as well. So, and I feel really bad. I can't remember the guy's name. There's a French actor who's going to be in the show playing Midnight Man.
Wait,
Unfortunately,
hold on.
he unfortunately passed away in a ski accident.
Oh, right. Okay, never mind. I was thinking of a different French actor, but I did see that.
Yeah, so that kind of sucks.
Anywho, exciting stuff to look forward to.
So here's a question: like, there's no way they don't do a Tom Holland Spider-Man thing where he goes to Garfield's universe. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know if we're going to see them cross over again. There's a possibility.
I would like to see a bit of the. Okay, so remember the whole line with holding back punches?
Yeah.
I would like to see a version of Spider-Man, preferably Andrew Garfield's, where we do get to see one of those moments where he's not just holding back punches, but nearly killing people.
Yeah. Well, what he talked about, how after he lost Gwen, the anger took over. I'd love that. Yep. Put him in a black costume. Put him in an all black Spider-Man, not a symbiote, but just an all black Spider-Man costume. There was actually a story where, because there's a story in the comics where after Civil War, where Peter does reveal his identity because Tony Stark pushed him to, Kingpin goes to have him assassinated, but Spider-Man obviously dodges the bullet because of his spider sense, but it hits Aunt May. So she's in critical condition. He goes to prison where Kingpin is and beats the ever-loving shit out of him, but doesn't kill him. However, there's a what-if version where the bullet hits MJ instead, and MJ dies instantly. So he puts back on the black costume, he goes to prison, kills Kingpin, and then goes on a tirade killing all his villains. It is dark and gritty. The Avengers and Fantastic Four have to try and stop him. It is incredibly well done story. So maybe not going that far with it where he's killing, but maybe where he's like severely, like he's hospitalizing jaywalkers, like basically like people who like, you know, like just bad stuff. Like he's like going too far too often. So I would kind of like to see that. I did like, there was a lot of meta commentary from Andrew and how he's like, yeah, I'm Peter Parker 3. And that's because before the movie came out, almost every poll had him as the worst Peter Parker, you know? And then like, he talks about how, oh man, I'm lame. I never got to fight an alien. I want to fight an alien like you guys. And Toby's like, no, don't say you're lame. You're not lame. Like there was like a lot of meta commentary there. Because people, you know, I thought that was great.
But it also, okay, but that meta commentary in the writing fits the character very well with the self-deprecation and having to come to terms with one's own faults, mistakes. It sort of opens up a conversation for mental health in young men, but doesn't really, so another missed opportunity there. But every interaction between the Spider-Man, I love to death. I was near tears. I was actually sobbing when Andrew catches MJ, but the other moments where they say "I love you" or just remarking how much
are you going into battle dressed as a youth pastor, or did you bring your costume? I love that line.
Yeah,
that was so good.
I think it was the perfect amount of relationship building in the movie. You know, going back to why or how I mentioned everything was well balanced before, besides the beginning and the end that kind of dragged on. But you know, just we have the action, we have the really hard hitting moments, and then we have the wholesome, hey, it's just the guys, you know, hanging out, you know.
There was also something I noticed that, again, part of a meta commentary, and these were the writers I think really nailed it, versus where they kind of, like I said, they forced the beginning through really quickly. But the debate has always been that Tobey Maguire was a great Peter Parker, but not a great Spider-Man. His quips weren't always great. It wasn't great. Andrew Garfield wasn't a great Peter Parker, but was an amazing Spider-Man because that's funny, Amazing Spider-Man. Because his quips were on point, his attitude, the way he did things, like the, you know. And then Tom Holland was a very well balanced Peter Parker and Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So we find out that Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, because he went this more angry route, had basically given up being Peter Parker altogether. He says, I don't have time for Peter Parker.
Yep.
Tobey Maguire, we find out, has made a rather, it's complicated, but he's worked out a life with him and MJ where he's mostly Peter Parker, but can still at times be Spider-Man. And Tom Holland has now found a balance to where I get to be a new Peter Parker. I get to be a kid. I get to be a college student that nobody knows, but I also get to be Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was really well done.
Yeah.
Yes, Tobey was a terrible Venom. Yeah, Spider-Man 3. But Sam Raimi has come out and said, this is not the movie I wanted to make. I don't like Venom. I didn't want to do this.
Wait, remember, mid-credit scene.
Yeah. Yeah, the symbiote is back.
I have not seen Venom yet, but still, holy fuck.
Yeah, the Venom is back. Which, honestly, what a waste. And let me say why.
Okay.
So Venom 2, not a great movie. It's all right. It's a popcorn film.
I remember when you... Okay, hold on. We had a conversation like a day or two after you saw it, and you were like, I think it's great. You should go watch it. I think you'll like it. And I was like...
Yeah, it's fun, but it's not like... It's just, it is what it is. Like, it's exactly what it's meant to be.
Okay.
But the end credit scene, where he gets sucked into the MCU, which happens in the end credit scene, people went nuts. And people were going back. People hated the movie. Like, a lot of people, like, really bashed the movie. But they were going back to the theater to watch it again just for the end credit scene.
Huh.
But then the fact that he never actually shows up until another end credit scene and he then disappears again feels like a waste.
Mm-hmm.
But we got the symbiote left.
Still there? Yeah.
So, part of this college... Now, there was one person... So, my original thought for this movie, and this was actually what I found out was original plan before... When Sony had split from Marvel, this was their plan, and this is what I thought would be great. The trial. He's under trial for murder.
Mm-hmm.
Either J. Jonah Jameson or somebody else hires Craven the Hunter to hunt him down. The world's greatest hunter.
Okay.
Also, the absolute greatest story in Spider-Man comics was called Craven's Last Hunt, where he buries Spider-Man alive, takes his costume, and becomes Spider-Man. Because this man... He's hunted everything on the planet. He's bored. He's even hunted man. And he's bored. So now he wants to hunt superhumans. And he figured that Spider-Man, with his spider sense, makes him the greatest hunt of all. So he wins, buries him alive, takes his costume, and decides, well, I want to be Spider-Man now. He eats a bunch of spiders. That's weird. But he becomes Spider-Man. But obviously he's a much different Spider-Man. Everybody notices you're not Spider. Like, it's very easy to tell. He's very brutal. But it's a great story. So Craven the Hunter, that movie's coming out. Aaron Taylor Johnson is going to play Craven the Hunter. They're going to do a solo movie. So my thought was, and this was actually, I found out later on, Sony's original plan was that Spider-Man decides to run away before the trial.
Uh-huh.
He gets hunted by Craven the Hunter throughout the film. Now you have college Spider-Man, no trial, no case, nobody knows who Peter is. But everybody knows who Spider-Man is still. You can still bring Craven the Hunter in one of these three films to hunt him down, because obviously that would be the greatest prey. Here's this superhero with this amazing agility, a spider sense so he can tell when you're coming. How do you hunt something that can tell when you're coming? That kind of thing. And Craven the Hunter, when they're showing the multiverse breaking apart above the Statue of Liberty, one of the silhouettes is a guy with a spear. That's Craven the Hunter. We also saw Rhino. We saw another universe's Mysterio. We saw Madam Web. Madam Web is a convoluted thing. But like there was a bunch of, like, Scorpion we saw, and there was some others. So there's a possibility that we could get something really cool out of these next three films. But part of that is Peter dealing with the symbiote. I think if you give it to him in the first film, like towards midway of the film, he finds, like, so the original symbiote, when it came out in the comic books, it was the original Secret Wars where they got transported to another planet by the Beyonder, which is Jeff Goldblum's character from Ragnarok. It's his brother.
Okay.
Him and Benicio del Toro, they have a third brother, the Beyonder. Now,
okay.
So these heroes and villains get picked up off the Earth and sent to this world to battle.
Uh-huh.
During one of the battles, Spider-Man's outfit gets completely just destroyed. Like, he is just obliterated pretty much. He's almost naked. Like, it's just, there's not much hanging on. On the ship that they're on, he puts his arm up on a stang and this black ooze comes down on him and it gives him a new suit. He thinks it's just some kind of like, at first he actually thought it was a Fantastic Four because it was a Fantastic Four ship that Reed Richard had created another unstable molecule costume and it just attached to him. Throughout months of the comic book run, he starts to hear a voice and he starts to become more aggressive. And it took months and months and months to realize that, oh, the suit is alive. The suit is a problem. And then we get to Venom. So some kind of battle messes up Spider-Man's new homemade suit, which we see at the film. He made it himself, homemade suit. He gets the alien symbiote, and just for that film, there's no voice because it's a baby too. Technically, it's a baby symbiote because it's only a little bit left, right? So it's growing using his internal power, the superpower, the metahuman side of him. It's growing in power by basically kind of feeding off him in a way. So there's no voice. It's just a suit. And he's now got organic webbing, which is what happened when he got the suit. He's got all that. The second film is where he starts to hear a voice and he starts to become more aggressive. And then the third film leads to him finally breaking free, somebody else getting a symbiote, and then later on we get a Venom later on down the road.
Gotcha.
Not like it was done in Spider-Man 3, which was not good. But I think there's a long play that can be done. I think.
Yeah. I think it would be interesting. Okay, so is the symbiote lab experiment or alien? I don't know.
It's an alien originally.
Mm-hmm.
In the Ultimate Universe, it is a lab experiment. So I mean, in this case, you kind of have to play it as an alien because it came off of an alien.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just thinking back to the line that Andrew Garfield has of like, "You guys got to fight an alien? I haven't fought an alien. I'm so lame," you know?
Restless Low, thank you for the subscribe, and you get a dancing penguin.
Yay. Anywho, I'm just thinking, hey, wouldn't it be nice if we had another Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movie where he does get to fight an alien? Yeah.
I mean, I would love that. I would love to see them because I would also like to see a redemption for Amazing Spider-Man 2 because that was not his fault at all.
Yeah, but
again,
at the
that was
same
just the studio micromanaging. If we could get some kind of story about him, I mean, hell, we could still do the aggressive side of him where he's dropped Peter Parker, he's become more aggressive, but now
older Peter Parker, yeah.
Yeah, but now there's an alien involved. Like he could fight an alien.
Yeah.
So like he comes back. You know, he's like, okay, maybe I am being too aggressive. Maybe I need to reevaluate how I do this. But now he has to fight some type of alien. And it doesn't have to be Venom. There are other aliens he could fight. And so now he's like, okay, well, now I have to figure out a way to balance my anger. I have to find a way to know when to throw punches. But in the case of this alien, I have to go full tilt. I have to because it's like he's kicking my ass otherwise. So that would be cool.
Yeah.
Real quick, Derailed says that in the Spider-Man 1, it was an alien. It came from a meteorite. That was in the movie. It came from a meteorite, and that was basically them going, how do we get this symbiote here? Meteorite falls in Central Park near Peter Parker. It works out. It was convoluted and stupid. In the comic books, it was from him being on an alien world. But yeah, so go on.
Question that popped up earlier, but I didn't get a chance to say. Are we getting a Fantastic Four reboot?
Yeah, in fact, John Watts, who had directed the 3 Spider-Man films, Homecoming, Far From Home, and No Way Home, is directing the Fantastic Four.
Sorry, not to be pessimistic, but well, that's encouraging.
I think it is. I think he handled the dynamic well with Spider-Man, and I think that he can handle a family dynamic with the Fantastic Four very well.
Okay.
And I think he'll do well. I'm excited for John Watts to do it. I really am. And they've kind of laid Easter eggs in the Spider-Man movies for it. That Fantastic Four are the ones buying the Avengers Tower, and it will become the Baxter Building.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
So it's all good, Derailed. I got you. Um, yeah, so I'm excited for that. Now, the rumors are that in Doctor Strange in a Multiverse of Madness, we're going to be seeing like variant, like multiversal versions of characters, including the original cast of the Fantastic Four possibly coming back. Like we're going to see Chris Evans, but as Johnny Storm, not as Captain America, because
Ah,
he played Johnny Storm in the original Fantastic Fours. There's still the rumor that Tom
that's good.
Cruise will be Iron Man because in the '90s he was supposed to play Iron Man. Um,
Okay.
there's a couple others that are rumored, and now I don't put a lot of weight.
There's a sorry, there's a part of the I can't remember which trailer or promo it's for, but we see Wanda in her new Scarlet Witch suit. Uh, 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 Levitating a little bit, doing
Yep.
some kind of a spell. And then I can't remember what it is I saw or read specifically, but it implies who her villain is going to be. Um,
Well, the thing is, if you look closely at her in that spell, her fingers are
mm,
black, just like how
hmm.
Agatha's were when she did spells and used chaos magic.
Yeah. Hmm.
The thing is, she might still be the villain of this movie,
Okay.
and there will be a redemption arc for her, but it's playing off that she is still looking for her kids and willing to do whatever it takes, including destroying the multiverse to find them, that kind of thing.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
so there's a lot going on. This film's gonna be, the what if characters are coming to life, like Agent Carter is supposed to be back. That we saw a dark Doctor Strange, the Doctor Supreme.
Sorry, you mean Captain Carter?
Oh, I said Agent, didn't I? Yes, Captain Carter.
Yes. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
Captain Carter.
So excited for. Well, I mean, the actor who plays
Haley
Agent
Atwell's a
Carter
little
is
bit of a
a little problematic, but still.
yeah,
Yeah.
not as problematic as say Evangelina Lilly, who's still the Wasp somehow,
Evangeline Lilly. Oh my God. Yeah,
and
and
Letitia Wright in Black Panther 2. But I digress.
yeah,
I digress.
yeah. Speaking of which, how many rewrites is Black Panther gonna get?
Well, apparently she's back and they're filming again. So I don't know.
We'll see.
I don't
We'll
know.
see.
Derail, thank you so much for stopping by. Get some good sleep. And we're here every
Yeah.
Wednesday. So come check it out.
Thanks for joining. Speaking of
Yeah.
which, I mean, I guess this would be a good time to wrap up because we're almost at 2 hours of this conversation. But
Yeah. But yeah, so on wrapping it up, I do think No Way Home is a fantastic film. I'm really looking forward to the
mhm.
home release and all the extras and stuff. Um, I'd like to see some more behind the scenes stuff on it because, like I said, my only gripe with the film really is thank you, Lily. You're amazing, and I am super cool too. Thank you, appreciate that. Um, like I said, my only gripe with the film was that it felt like crap. We got to resolve this issue this massive issue we opened up at the end of the last movie, but now we're going a different direction. So we'll just cram it all in the beginning and we'll fix it really quick with the phone call. Like that was a little, all right, whatever. But
Mhm.
overall, I forgave all that because what came afterwards was just amazing. And the emotional
Yeah.
turmoil that Peter went through throughout the film and the growth and maturity he had to go through and that decision he made to not tell MJ and Ned who he was.
Yep.
That is such a mature decision to realize that
Yeah.
he saw the band-aid and like, no, I cannot put them in danger again. I
Yeah.
love her too much. I love him too much. They need to go to MIT. They need to go live their life. I'm going to do my thing maybe one day.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of growth for the character there and I really liked that and I thought it was really good.
Me too. Yeah.
Great
I
input, Lily.
mean, again, just the thing that sold this movie for me was the phenomenal acting. I am invested in Tom Holland's work now. I want to see um, more from him and see him find more success through his acting career because he knocked it out of the park in No Way Home.
I would
Um,
recommend Cherry and I believe it's called The Devil in Me or The Devil.
I've heard mixed things about Cherry, but I'm intrigued by it, so.
I liked it. I think it's one of those films that, like, again, it's like part of the problem was people went into it expecting Peter Parker. I think that's part of it, and the other part of it is that it's a character driven story. It's intense. It's well done. And then there was the other one. Is it Devil in Me or something like that? The Devil something. Tom Holland. Devil All the Time. I was way off. Devil All the Time is another good one.
Thank you, Monroe.
He's got Uncharted coming out, which I'm a big fan of the game, Uncharted games. I don't think this is going to be good. I'm not a huge Mark Wahlberg fan. Yeah. And I love Tom Holland. I just don't see him as Nathan Drake. So, like, maybe a young Nathan Drake, but not Nathan Drake. So, I'm a little worried about the film. But also, Antonio Banderas is in it, and that's always a big plus for me. It's one of the reasons. It's one of the. It's the main reason I'm growing my hair out. One of my favorite movies of all time is Desperado. I want that long Antonio Banderas hair. I want to be able to, like, swoop it to the side and say hello. My name is Antonio. Dance with me. Yeah. You know, that's why I'm growing my hair out, and love Antonio Banderas, and so I'll sit through Mark Wahlberg for Tom Holland and Antonio Banderas. So we'll see how that goes, but that's coming out fairly soon. In fact, tickets are already on sale. Like, the pre-sale tickets already went up, so there's that. And of course, like I said, we've got Batman March 4th. Thank you, Restless Row, which is Monroe, who is our bouncer. So we got, like I said, we got the Batman March 4th. We got the rest of
Don't forget Morbius.
Oh, I did forget. But Morbius got moved to, like, May, I think.
It's okay. It's in the spring. Okay.
So it's coming at some. It was supposed to be the end of this month or last month, technically, because it is now February. Which, by the way, 222022. It's a lot of twos. But yeah. So we have the rest of Book of Boba Fett. We've got Moon Knight coming. We got Batman, and we got Moon Knight. Oh, we got the rest of Peacemaker. We got a few more episodes of that. We've got Doctor Strange: The Multiverse of Madness. We've got Obi-Wan. We've got Morbius. There's a lot.
So much.
There's a lot coming before June, so there will be plenty to talk about. Unless something comes up, I think next week we should talk Peacemaker. So you're gonna have to catch up on Peacemaker. So everybody spam Lily, tell her to watch Peacemaker. And I will say this about Peacemaker. It has arguably the greatest intro of all time. I've never skipped this intro. I watch it every episode. It's amazing. So that's a lot of fun. And James Gunn is great. So, yeah. So we're going to wrap it up on that. Lily, you have anything to say before we go?
All hail Andrew Garfield. That is all.
Okay. Oh, also, we literally just started a TikTok account specifically for the podcast. Yay! When I say just started, I mean literally I was doing it before Lily got on the Zoom call. Like, we literally just started it. So we'll get it out there. You can find it through our TikToks. We'll share it. We'll have it out there. We'll start doing stuff specifically. So, like, when trailers and stuff come out, we'll cover them on the TikTok, so we're not trying to spend full episodes to talk about a trailer. So we'll keep that in mind. Stuff like that. A little news here and there. We'll always post it on there. So look out for that. It's The Geeks and Noobs spelled out. That's our TikTok. The Geeks and Noobs. So check us out there. I'm at SuperBeard, even though you can't see it because of the stupid light. Lily is at Lily_ not the flower. It's all right there on the screen. Also find our Instagrams. I'm also on Twitter. So we've got all that. And as I mentioned before, if you are a wrestling fan, make sure you're here this Saturday, 7 p.m. Eastern. I've got the guys from Wrestle Talk, Comic Punk Guy, Love Panda, MacGruber, and Infamous Opinionist joining me. And we're going to talk about wrestling for a couple hours. It's going to be a lot of fun. Also, tonight, it is now, what time is it? It is 8:41. Between 9 and 9:15, I will be getting back on here to play Resident Evil 6. So if you want to come watch me get killed by zombies a lot, because I suck at games, come watch SuperBeard Plays Poorly, because that's exactly what I call it, because I suck. But got that in mind. Lily's going to go work out, get those gains, get those muscles.
Yeah.
And
I ate so much food over winter break. I got like a pound or two. I know,
she's so fat now. What do you weigh, like $105? Soaking wet, you tiny fetus.
Anywho.
No, seriously. Like, hey, look, everybody work out if you want to work out. It has nothing to do with weight gain, weight loss. It's if it makes you feel good, do it.
Yes.
If it doesn't make you feel good, don't do it. You know, it is what it is. Who cares what anybody says about you? Just do it for you.
I'll be wearing the Geeks and Noob podcast merch while working out. So at the very least, we're promoting the show.
Yeah, because our clientele is the gym.
I mean, other college-age nerds? Question mark? Okay.
Anywho. Maybe. We'll see. All right, guys. Thank you guys so much. And again, we will see you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Bye, everybody.
Bye.